Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Members of the Rastafarian community sounding off on that CARICOM marijuana meeting coming up on Friday. That story straight ahead.
Former DNA leader Granville McCartney is sounding off on the discussion of decriminalizing marijuana.
Bahamians and visitors brave the cold temperatures.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, 3 water and sewage employees taken in for questioning in relation to an alleged theft investigation at the corporation yesterday have been released and were back on the job today. But Bahamas Utilities Service and Allied Workers Union President Dwayne Wood says the Utilities Corporation now owes those line staff a public apology for what he called the unnecessary embarrassment they had to suffer among their colleagues.
Morale of the workers and the members of our union is very much so diminished, and it can take a lot to bring that back. So maybe the corporation would want to start with this apology to get back on the right foot and let's create industrial harmony in the workplace once again.
It was back on the job for those 3 employees Thursday morning. On Wednesday, they were called into the Central Detective Unit for questioning. No word on whether they're in the clear as yet, but according to Union President Dwayne Woods, staff morale is low.
Well, these people feel aggrieved, they feel aggrieved, and they feel that their character have been diminished and demolished, and the union is therefore asking for the corporation to publicly apologize to these employees, man, because if there's no charge, then it's obvious what the union was saying a long time ago is the facts.
Authorities were called into the corporation in December, according to Water and Sewerage Chairman Adrian Gibson, to investigate theft allegations as well as other sensitive matters. The amount allegedly stolen is said to be thousands of dollars, according to officials. Meanwhile, the union claims it all centers on a fire hydrant.
So obviously, the police force got to sift through the nonsense of the innuendos, suspicions, possibilities, accusations, and no facts, and come up with the same philosophy that the union was under previously. And they released the members pending investigation. Well, we want to say they did a professional job thus far. And we applaud them for their professionalism.
Head of the Police Force Anti-Corruption Unit, Assistant Commissioner Paul Rhodes, said the investigation is a little more complex than just calling it an alleged theft investigation, so it's unclear what will happen next. As the marijuana debate heats up ahead of this Friday's CARICOM meeting, members of the Rastafarian community are repeating a long-awaited call for the government to decriminalize or fully legalize the plant. Jared Higgs tells us that the leading members of the community feels that some progress has already been made.
Priest Rickman McKinney is the Royal Ambassador for the Ethiopia Black International Congress, a high-ranking position in the Bahamian Rastafari community. McKinney and many of his fellow Rastafarians have been calling for the legalization of marijuana for decades. Despite government's failure to change the law, he says he's seen some change in social attitudes towards marijuana over the years.
I can see the government trying to make a shift, trying to make a change, because I see now they're trying to send them to get rehab and things like that. They're trying to stop putting criminal records on our young boys and our young children. So I see the shift coming.
With a highly anticipated forum on marijuana just over a day away, McKinney says it's not just the courts that he believes have taken a less harsh stance on the illicit substance. He says in the past, members of law enforcement had little tolerance for even small amounts of the plant.
From the police, also, I don't think this, like back then, how if they see you with a spliff, they won't choke you, or they won't deal you in a humane way. It changed now, because they realize, because enough of them now have sons, they have daughters, they have brothers, they have sisters who use the marijuana. And it's not only for the smoking, but for health reasons also.
Ian Mora is another Rasta who has spent several years advocating for changes in marijuana law. He says meetings like these come around every so often, and very little is changed from a policy perspective. This time, his expectations are higher.
Action plan. That's what I would hope for out of the whole thing, that there's some action plan. I mean, I could commend the government for actually bringing the issue to the fore now and having an open dialogue, because thus far the dialogue has been closed and kind of one-sided. So now that they're opening up, you have more voices that come in. But unfortunately, I've been a part of these talk shops for so many times that you go and you give ideas, but then nothing really materializes.
Public discourse on marijuana legalization has heightened over the past few days after it was revealed that the CARICOM Regional Commission on Marijuana would be hosting a meeting to learn how Bahamians feel about the decriminalization of marijuana. Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands said there wasn't any earth-shattering change to the government's position and they would be guided by CARICOM's recommendations. PLP Senator Fred Mitchell also released a statement stating that too many young Bahamians are being stigmatized over marijuana use and that the party is interested in any possible medicinal uses of the drug. Mora appreciates those sentiments, although he has a different idea of how it should be classified.
I think it should be treated just like Cerasee. I think it should just be treated like shepherd needle, because that's just what it is. It's a plant that comes out of the ground, and the fact that it's been vilified for so long, the truth of the matter is that they can't continue to do that any longer because it has so many benefits, from making textiles to making medicine to the social impact of it also. So it's impossible for them to keep the truth down.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Higgs.
Well, as the controversial issue of decriminalizing marijuana has once again become a hot topic, former leader of the Democratic National Alliance, Bramwell McCartney, is urging the government not to miss out on the opportunity to boost the economy. Georgia Bain reports.
Former Senator Bramwell McCartney says the government needs to get real on the issue of marijuana. And if it's not on the agenda, they need to put it there. Because according to McCartney, it's going to be $1 million industry. According to McCartney, he is afraid that when the country wants to jump on the bandwagon and decide to legalize marijuana, he fears it'll be too late.
We need to decriminalize marijuana. And I'll even take it as far as we need to make it an industry in terms of exporting it. And we need to do that as soon as possible. I heard the Minister of Health last night speak about it and indicate that it's not on its list or not one of the top priorities. Well, there are a lot of things that ought to be on the list of this government. And I think if we take it to the extent of making it an industry whereby we also export it, you would see an increase in our economy.
McCartney says it's time for the country to wake up and see the big picture.
For medical purposes, marijuana has been proven to be very beneficial. And from a criminal aspect point of view, and we've said this before, where we had young men and women going to jail for a small amount of marijuana, getting a police record, ruining their lives, and I think that's unfortunate.
As for the Christian Council, McCartney recommends that they do some research before taking a stance that could potentially alter the beliefs of Bahamians.
I don't know why they're up in arms. They haven't given any good reason for it. Certainly, it's not Christian? Are they going to say that? It goes against what Jesus says? I don't know. But the bottom line is, let's be real about this thing.
Reporting for our news, I'm Georgia Bain.
Temperatures took a dive overnight after a cold front ushered in heavy winds and biting cold that today forced one public beach to issue a no-swim warning and meteorologists to issue a weather warning for motorists, beachgoers, and boaters. Our Jasmine Brown took to the streets today and has reaction to the unusually cold start to the new year.
Despite temperatures dropping overnight, that didn't stop some from heading to the shorelines, including visitors and Bahamians.
Chicago, everybody! They're full of the snow. It's the Bahamian snow. White sand. Many people in bed last night. Many people in bed last.
It's an unfamiliar sight. Visitors and residents bundled up against gusting winds and cold temperatures. But that was exactly how many people braved the lower than normal temperatures that hovered in the mid-60s for much of the day. Despite the low temps, visitors and vendors did not shy away from the shorelines.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna let the better bother me. They gotta have a drink. Gotta have one of my special drinks.
And is this one of the coldest, or have you seen colder?
This is the coldest.
And despite that, you came out here today.
Well, I took off yesterday, so I said I'll come out today. But it's all right.
We're always complaining about how hot it is, and so it's a welcome change.
Now, if you're wondering what prompted the wild weather, the Department of Meteorology says it's the result of a deepening and complex low-pressure system that is making its way across the archipelago. But the front did not just bring cold weather. It also brought dangerous conditions that included heavy winds and hazardous marine conditions. And that prompted the Department of Meteorology to issue a warning at 6 a.m., advising boaters in the northwest and central Bahamas to remain in port and beachgoers to remain on shore until further notice. They cited dangerous surf and rip currents. It was those conditions that prompted lifeguards at Jonkanu Beach to designate the area as a no-swim zone.
It can be a bit challenging in situations like this because, when guests come over, they're expecting clear waters and, good weather. Yeah, exactly. But in order for us to keep them safe, we must not allow them to go into the water.
The water ban and wild weather weren't an issue for many of the beachgoers we spoke to. Taking it all in stride, they insisted it's better than the near-freezing temperatures they left behind.
It's not, warm beach weather, but where we're from right now, it's 14, 15 degrees. So this actually feels great to be in shorts and have the breeze.
It's better than shoveling snow.
And don't pack away those warm clothes just yet, though, as the cold snap isn't over yet. Temperatures are expected to dip even lower tonight to 54 degrees and remain in the 60s for the next few days. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Still to come on our news, the Chamber of Commerce chiming in on the marijuana debate. The details are after this break.